iLead charter schools. We are a network of free public charter schools with campuses in Castaic. It's actually South Castaic. It's actually considered part of Valencia, the master plan over there. We've got a campus over here on the east side of the valley, Agua Dulce, Lancaster. We've also got a fully accredited online school. We've got a great home study program as well that's just continuing to grow. That's called iLead Exploration. You know what? Check us out at iLeadschools.org for information on all of our schools, whether they are hybrid, virtual, campus-based. Check us out at iLeadschools.org for more information. So yeah, we've got our eye on education here in Santa Clarita and across the nation. But like the show says, we like to keep our eye on the valley as well, bringing you everything that you need to know about what's what here in the valley. And, you know, in the meantime and in between time, we try to put a smile on your face as well because, you know, it's Friday, y'all. Let's giggle a little. Let's chuckle a little. Let's slide into that weekend, that long holiday weekend together because, you know, if you're not giggling a little bit while you're doing it, you probably shouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we're back. Happy New Year, y'all. That's right. This is the first show for us anyways of 2025, and we're glad to be here. Took a little time off for the holidays because that's what we do. But now we're back. We're ready to go. We are fired up for what 2025 holds ahead of us. It's going to be a great year. Coming up in the next couple of weeks, we've got some great guests coming up. We've got Kathy Norris, President and CEO of VIA. That's the Valley Industry Association. Kathy will be joining us, I believe, next week. And then we've also got Fred Arnold coming in a couple of weeks. Fred Arnold, man about town, community leader, newly elected trustee to the COC School Board. We'll be checking in with Fred, and we've got actually several new folks who were recently elected and installed in office that we are efforting. We've got producer Sarah out there banging the phones, working on getting those folks in. So hopefully we'll be able to check in with them over the next couple of weeks. Talking about our newest elected Congressman Whiteside, State Senator Suzette Valladares, Assemblywoman Pilar Schiavo now entering her second term, newly elected City Council member Patsy Ayala. We've got all kinds of folks that are starting their terms, and we're efforting all of them. So yeah, looking forward to that new year here on Eye on the Valley. But don't sleep on today's show either. We've got a great show for you today. Here in just a moment, we'll be talking to the leaders of your local public charter school, SCVi. I'm talking about Chad Powell and Martha Spansel-Pellico. They'll be joining us here momentarily. They've got some great things going on over there on the west side of town for all grades, TK through 12th grade. And then in hour number 2, we will check back in with Santa Clarita City Librarian Gina Robertson. This is going to be Gina's second time on the show. She's fantastic. She joined us in studio about, a few months ago, and our city libraries are really, they're unparalleled, you know, since, our library system used to belong to the county system, and when we took over, it's that local control idea. Our city libraries really took off, got great programming, some great locations here in the valley, and just tremendous services for people of all ages. Gina and her team are doing some amazing things. So we'll check in with them and see what they've got going on. And then, yes, as hard as I try to shake him, my big brother, Big T, will be joining us at the end of the show like he does with some fun, some trivia, some fun facts, and his general brand of goofiness. I think Big T's on the road today, but that doesn't stop him from calling in. It's going to be great. So, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Like I said, my first guests this morning are both experienced, educated, educational leaders with roots right here in the city of the ciudad of Santa Clarita. Martha Spansel-Pellico earned her bachelor's degree in English and a secondary teaching credential from the Master's College, and her master's degree in educational leadership and her administrative credential from the University of Laverne. She's got 17 years experience in school administration and all of her 23 plus years of education here in local schools from district to charter. And her partner, Chad Powell, he earned his bachelor's degree and teaching credential from Fresno State and his master's degree in administrative credential from Cal State Northridge. And like Martha, he's served at local schools for well over 20 years now with extensive administrative experience. And the two of them lead Santa Clarita's first classroom-based charter school, and the city's only public comprehensive school serving grades TK through 12. I'm talking about SCVi. Martha, Chad, welcome back to Eye on the Valley.
Hey, thanks, Matt. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So glad you guys could call in. I know Friday mornings are never easy for a school administrator, but let's start here. Let's start by talking about what SCVi is and what SCVi isn't, because you guys have been open 16, 17 years now, and folks still get a little bit confused sometimes. SCVi, again, not a private school. You guys are a public school, funded like all public schools are, but you're quite different from the local district schools. So why don't we start with that? What are some of the things that make SCVi unique or different?
Well, first of all, we are a TK through 12 school, so that means one drop-off for all the families out there. We are a smaller school, kind of like a boutique niche-style school. We have a small high school of about 100 kids, and then we have a TK through 8. Down here in our lower building, we are a project-based learning school, and we really, our pillars are individualized instruction, project-based learning, and social-emotional education.
Yeah, and we receive a charter through the Heart District, but after that, we're an independent charter school, which means that we have control over our curriculum as much as any district does, and that independence really allows us to innovate.
Oh, gosh, I bet that makes things really flexible, having such a small school and then the ability to be independent like that. I know you.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. One of the things that we're trying to do with that is make sure we're meeting kids where they are academically, not necessarily what their age or grade level is. For example, we have one second grader who is currently taking 5th grade math.
Oh, wow.
And try to make those things happen for our learners.
Yeah, wow. It really just does open the doors to customized learning. I know you guys pride yourselves on the individualized learning aspect where even with, you mentioned, I think, small high school, 100 kids. You don't have 100 kids, or you don't have a high school of 100. You've got 100 different individual programs going on. Same with your elementary and middle schools. You mentioned meeting kids where you are, and that brings me to my next question. Where are your kids coming from? Because you mentioned, Chad, that you're authorized through the Heart District, but I know that enrollment rules are a little bit different for charter schools. So what are your enrollment borders?
Yeah, we're lucky that way. We don't have to limit ourselves to a certain neighborhood. We have students that are coming in from all over the local area. We have kids coming in from the valley. We run a bus out there. We also run a bus out to Fillmore, Piru. We have quite a few families that are here from there. We have families that are actually traveling a pretty far distance because they bought into our program and they believe in what we're doing. And again, we're not limited by a certain geographic space. All the surrounding counties actually, they can come here.
That's fantastic. Yeah, you mentioned Fillmore, Piru. That's out in the Ventura County. That's great that you can even take kids from outside of LA County, especially being that close to the Ventura County border. I know you recently opened your enrollment process for the next school year. Hard to believe we're talking about 2025-26 already, but your enrollment lottery is open for the next school year, and I know that's something that families really try hard to get their application in on time and into your lottery. But are you still open for enrollment for this year? Because I know you're just getting into second semester, aren't you?
Yeah, we just started second semester about a week in, and yes, of course, we are still open in certain grades. It really just depends on what the grade is, but the majority of the grades are open for this semester. But we do have some waiting lists on some grades that are impacted.
Well, fantastic. So you guys are taking applications for this year, enrolling folks that may want to make that mid-year move, but you're also taking applications for next school year. So as a matter of fact, if you're listening right now and you might be interested in SCVi, head on over to their website. It is iLeadSantaClarita.org. And you know what? I'm going to give you a hack here. Fill out the enrollment application. There's no cost involved. That'll get you in the front of the line if you're applying for this semester. It'll get you into the lottery process if you're applying for next school year. But Chad, Martha, you mentioned your school was founded on the principles of project-based learning. as an educator of nearly 30 years now, I'm a huge fan of project-based learning. I've worked on project-based learning in larger districts when I worked in my time in the private school, and so it was a natural fit for me when I came over to iLead. But can you talk to our listeners about what the benefits of project-based learning are, and then what are some of the types of projects that your kids are working on?
Well, project-based learning is really fosters 21st century skills, really fosters teamwork, working together, critical thinking skills. It starts with a driving questions where the learners have to investigate and answer the driving question based on the curriculum that they've received and the information they've received, and then develop and take that where their natural curiosity goes.
Yeah,
so it's
right.
really open-ended.
Yeah, to say project-based learning is just another way of saying real-life application.
Yeah.
Right.
Because most people in most industries, you're going to be working at some level with other people. You're going to be creating projects, developing the skills to be able to work successfully with other people. That really is real life, and that's where we're moving our curriculum. Some of the projects that that we're seeing out there, especially involve aerospace. Aerospace is an area that we really want to lean into as a charter school. It's an area of tremendous growth in Southern California. And so we have everything from 8th graders actually flying gliders up into Tehachapi, up there with the pilots behind them. We have kindergartners learning how to fly kites and create little helicopters. And we even have kids that are designing a project that's going to go up into space.
And we have drones as well.
And we have drones at the high school. We know that that's an area of unmanned aircraft is going to be huge in the upcoming decades, and we're getting our learners in on the ground floor of piloting and even moving towards receiving their unmanned drone piloting license.
Wow, that is fantastic. That's what I was wondering about, because I know, drones have become kind of ubiquitous, but this idea of unpiloted drones or unlicensed drone pilots has become quite an issue. So great to hear that your kids are not only learning how to fly drones, but learning the ethics and getting their license. That is fantastic. That's phenomenal. So you have all different kinds of programs that you've got going on there. You mentioned the different projects and the real world experience that you have your kids getting that are preparing them for life, for the workforce. But then within your school, you mentioned how small and boutique it is, but you've also got these smaller programs within your school that are really developing kids in their areas of interest and expertise. Can you share with us about some of the unique different programs that you have at SCVi?
As you heard already about aerospace, along with aerospace, we have a dual language immersion program for grades all the way up to 5th grade in our lower school, and that's kind of within a school where they're actually taught by teachers from Spain, and they are learning a second language learning Spanish along with learning all the English content standards.
Fantastic. So you got dual language immersion.
At the right, the dual language immersion there, and then at the high school, a lot of the listeners may be familiar with AP courses, but we have a similar program, but we think that it actually goes beyond the scope of AP, and this is the IB program, the International Baccalaureate program. This is an opportunity for learners, one way that they can receive college credit while they're taking high school classes potentially, as well as receiving the grade bumps that go with that. But we're also partnering with COC and doing some concurrent enrollment where we have COC professors here on our campus teaching our learners. Yeah.
Actually coming onto your campus, that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, actually coming onto our campus. And we also have both a theater arts as well as we have our aerospace CTEs, those are career technical pathways. We know that we have, every year, we have our graduates go all different directions. Some of them go off to university. In fact, we had 3 that were accepted into USC last year. But we also have students going directly into the workforce. And whichever path they're going, those CTE training and pathways is really valuable for them. And for a small high school, I really truly believe we punch way above our weight in terms of the programs that we offer in a very small space where it's impossible to get lost in the numbers.
Yeah, I love that. With the project-based learning platform that you use, you really are preparing kids for success in the workforce and college as well. And I like that idea. For such a small school, you really do punch way above your weight. Love that. SCVi is TK through 12th grade, but a very small campus still. Martha, I know in addition to your administrative duties, you also teach high school English, and you've got a class. You've got students coming in right now. So we're going to go ahead and cut you loose. But Chad, when we get back, you and I have got some exciting things that we want to talk about. We'll do that when we get back. Martha Spansel-Pellico, Chad Powell, directors of SCVi Charter School, the best in free public schools, TK through 12th grade, right here in Santa Clarita. I'm Matt Watson. This is SCVi and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley, and you're listening to your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead Schools Eye on the Valley. I am joined this morning by Chad Powell, director at SCVi Charter School, free public charter school serving grades TK through 12. His partner, Martha, just had to split. She's got an English class this morning, but Martha mentioned earlier the benefits of a family being able to drop off their elementary, middle, and high schooler at the same place at the same time. Very convenient. It also builds such an amazing sense of community. As a matter of fact, I always love hearing at SCVi's graduation the testimony of kids that are graduating high school talking about, yeah, this is the only school I've ever attended. You know, I started here in kindergarten and went all the way through 12th grade, and the abilities that they've built through the project-based learning platform, Chad, that you talked about earlier. So, Chad, before the break, we were talking about some of those amazing real-world projects that your learners are working on, that your teachers, they're all fully credentialed, but we call them facilitators because that's how they run their classroom. So we talked about some of those projects. One of the most exciting projects that y'all run every year at SCVi is actually coming to a head here in the spring. Coming up, we've got some exciting things happening in the Dream Up to Space project. Can you talk about that project, Chad? What is the Dream Up to Space project? And I love talking about it because every time we do, listeners just can't believe it. It really doesn't sound real. But tell us about Dream Up to Space.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. It's an exciting project. It starts off as a little bit of a competition that we run across the school, all the way through our elementary, junior high, and high school. And the teams come up with what they think would be an interesting project dealing with microgravity. And so we have a competition, and then once we have a team set, they then select members of that team. These are all students on this team, and they begin to do the work to actually put this project together. When the pieces are complete, we send it over, and it gets launched into space, and it goes up, and that experiment is conducted by astronauts in space. And then the data is sent back here, and our students start to analyze that data, and they take a look at their experiment. And it is truly an exciting thing that we all get to do. That I don't know that any other school around here gets that experience.
Yeah, I don't think so. And it's funny. It's almost become routine because your students have been doing it for about 10 years now. But yeah, in fact, it's been almost 10 years, but I just learned last year, you talked about how they're experimenting with microgravity, and one of the things that's kind of a misnomer is the idea of zero gravity. There's no such thing as zero gravity. When we're in space, there's actually gravity. It's just perpetually falling, and it is what you call microgravity. Your kids are actually designing their own unique experiments to be conducted by astronauts on the space station. You've got a team sending some bamboo seeds up this year, and they're trying to figure out,
we do.
Yeah, can we grow bamboo in space, and is that going to be helpful as we start to colonize the moon and Mars? So Team Bamboo, congratulations.
Exactly.
That's very exciting. We're going to try to get them on the radio, Chad, when their experiment comes back. But that is incredible. You talk about real-world learning experiences. This isn't an education that's mimicking real life. They're actually on the forefront of space exploration, doing real work while they're in high school in this case. But you mentioned the project's open to elementary and middle schoolers. Another event you've got coming up that's a a little bit more feet on the ground here are your learner-led conferences, but this is something I always enjoy every year. How are these different from your traditional parent-teacher conferences that we see in campuses, well, really across the nation? How are your learner-led conferences run?
Well, I think this is one of the most important things about how we do operate the school, in that typically a parent-teacher conference, the student is kind of a little bit, they're the subject of the conference, but they're not really in the conversation. The difference that we have here is we every day strive to have our learners, our students, own their own education, that this isn't something that is forced upon them or such, that they are participating in this. And so every year, early in the school year, our students set academic goals for themselves. They set social emotional learning goals. They set a variety of goals. The learner-led conferences that are coming up, this is the opportunity where the student will meet with their own parent at school. The teacher is there, but they are guiding the conversation. They are going through their own goals, and not only the goals, but the processes that they're using to achieve those goals with their parents, making adjustments, fielding the questions from their parents so that they really are in the driver's seat of their own education.
I love that. It's kind of turns traditional education on its head, right? Because education is typically something that's done to the student, but they are the end user. It needs to be in their hands, and so I love that you do that not just on a regular basis in the classroom, but also when it comes to conferences. Chad, as long as we're hitting up upcoming events, I know you've got a couple of exciting virtual events coming up. I know there's a webinar exclusively for SCVi and iLead families on how to access free money. I know Winston Churchill once said there ain't no free lunch, but the state actually has free money that your families are going to learn how to access for college, as well as tax-free college savings accounts. But you've also got a virtual information night coming up. So this is kind of an open house, but it's online. Families can do it from the convenience of their own home. What can you tell us about this event? Who's it for? When is it? How do people sign up?
Yeah, it's on the 30th, and what we try to do is we try to have a combination of online events as well as in-person events to better meet the family schedules. We know that online is easier, but ultimately we want families to come and take a look at the school. We really think the school sells itself. When you come and you give a tour, you get to see what we're doing here. It really is pretty amazing. This event on the 30th is online to try to make it as easy as possible for families to come in. We'll have school staff here. They'll be online. It's a virtual presentation of the school. Also gives families an opportunity to ask questions, and then hopefully move that into one of our tours of the school where they can come to the school during the school day, see it operating. Transparency is very important to what we do. We want parents to see what's happening live.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is kind of a natural process. So on January 30th, 5:30 p.m., and I love the way you run this. It's kind of about the time families are getting home, and so everybody can kind of dip in, hear what your program's all about, talk about it there, hit the mute button, talk about it there with your family without having to make a commitment, figure out who's going to watch the kids while mom and dad are at the open house or the information night there on campus. You mentioned the typical kind of process: go to the virtual information night, fall in love with the school, sign up for a tour. After you take a tour, fill out the enrollment application. Chad, please forgive me. I like to teach our listeners how to cheat a little bit, though, because I'm a huge I'm a huge proponent. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. Do the process backwards. Do the process backwards. There's no fee to fill out an application. There's no application fee. So I'm going to encourage you, get online right now at iLeadSantaClarita.org or just Google SCVi. Fill out the application now. While you're on the website, sign up for the January 30th information night. Once you've decided and you want to take a tour, in fact, you can sign up for a tour now as well, but fill out the application first. That way, when you do decide that SCVi is the place for you and your kids, you'll be at the front of the line, and it'll cut down on your wait time. And then if you decide it's not for you, you just pull your application. Like I said, there's no fee involved. So little life hack there for you. But
exactly.
Yeah, and then you've
Right,
got
yeah,
that.
because we do have, right, because we really do. It really is very much sort of a for the open spots that we do have. It really is the first families that get the application in and come in and then enroll. They really take those seats. So if it's something that someone is considering, it's not a bad idea at all. Start the process early, and then if you decide it's for you, you're already in the queue.
Absolutely. So you've got that virtual information night. It's online via Zoom, January 30th, 5:30 p.m. Signups are on your website. Chad, I
Right.
can't help but think there's somebody looking at their calendar right now going, oh, shoot, we got the hockey game on the 30th. We can't make it. What if
Yeah.
families are unable to make it? What if they can't make the virtual information night?
Oh, sure. If they can't make that night, you don't have to go to the virtual information night to have a tour. So you could certainly sign up on the tour. A great deal of the information that's in the virtual night will also be on the tour. Or they can just call. Just have them call. Ask them, or just call and ask to speak with me. I'll give them a call,
Fantastic.
and I'll personally talk about the school with them and explain what's going on.
Gosh, you talk about the boutique service that you mentioned in the first break. That is
Sure.
fantastic. I do believe that a parent would be hard pressed to pick up the phone and call the principal at a local school and say, "Hey, can you give me a tour?" But Chad Powell is
Well, I
there
think that
for it.
just shows where we're prioritizing things. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it goes right hand in hand with the personalized education, the individualized learning plans that you all develop with your kids. And Chad, one of the benefits of having a school that is TK through 12th grade is you don't have to worry about handing your kids off to the next level. You all kind of take care of the full comprehensive education from the time kids are 4 years old till they're graduating high school through project-based learning, social emotional learning. You've got the International Baccalaureate, career technical education, dual language immersion. It's all coming together to develop the whole child through what you call
Right.
the SCVi learner outcomes. So if I enroll my kid, say 4 years old, 5 years old at SCVi, leave them there for the 13, 14 years of their
Right.
education, what are the outcomes? I know you've even labeled them that, the learner outcomes. What are the SCVi learner outcomes, and why are these important as you prepare kids for life beyond 12th grade?
Oh, absolutely. When we talk about iLead, I mean, most people probably figured out that the lead is an acronym.
Yep.
But when we say we're trying to develop leaders, that is truly what we're trying to do. And you can't lead anyone until you can lead yourself, until you can decide for yourself what's important to you, what are your values, what's going to motivate you, that you're not easily led off on areas that don't reflect those values, that you can be authentic to yourself. All of these things are connected with this idea of our learner outcomes. Of course, we follow the state curriculum, the standards, the state testing. Our kids, of course, do well in English and math and social studies and science, and they do all these things. But ultimately, what we want to produce at the end of this 13-year process, or whatever year you jump in, is we want to produce really people that have healthy thinking habits, people that know how to apply their knowledge in new and creative ways, people that can be an asset to their communities. And so this is really where our learners' outcomes come from. We know that there was a time in the past where a good education wasn't much different than owning a set of encyclopedias, but we know that's
Right.
different now, right? We know that now the jobs these kids are going to be going into in 20 years, 10 years, probably don't exist right now, especially with the advent of
Right.
AI and how fast technology is moving, right? So our education not only has to give them a base, but it also has to give them the critical thinking tools in order to be able to take what they know and be creative and flexible and apply those to new situations, because right, the only constant is change, right?
Yes.
Yes, and so we do want lifelong learners, and we want those lifelong learners to be able to determine and be their authentic self. We don't want a learner to come to school and have to not be themselves. They can be themselves at home, but they can't be themselves here. We don't want that. We want them to be able to be themselves. We want them to be leaders. We want them to buy into our design philosophy, which is that it's iteration. You try something. If it doesn't work, you try something a little bit different. You keep adjusting it until you figure out what works. And these are the concepts that are tied into our learner outcomes. And this is ultimately even more so than the English and the math and the science, and as important as they are, producing adults into our community with these skills That's our ultimate mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't help but think, what parent would turn their head at that if a school were able to say, look, we're going to partner with you as we raise your kids together to develop them into lifelong learners, empathetic citizens, authentic individuals, and design thinkers, people who are able to continue to grow, express empathy towards their fellow man, be their true selves, and then also continue to iterate as they design into the future. I can't imagine that a parent could want much more than that for their kids. And
Right.
y'all at SCVi are helping develop those leaders, right? And you mentioned LEAD. iLead is an acronym, developing those leaders that our community needs. Because Chad, as well as anybody, this community, Santa Clarita, we're not looking to develop factory workers. We're not looking to develop followers. This is a community of leaders, a community that pushes into the future and creates it, and that's what y'all are doing at SCVi. So, Chad, we talked about it before.
Yeah.
How can families who are interested learn more about your school, get more information? And you even mentioned if families are looking to make a mid-year jump at the second semester, you're enrolling now. So where do families go to get more information?
There's a lot of ways they can go. The easiest first step could possibly be just going to our website, and again, that is iLeadSantaClarita.org. They can go there. They can see what we're about. They can read it. They can move at their own pace. But ultimately, the best way to get to know the school is to come visit the school. And so I would absolutely encourage people to come to our information night. That's going to be on January 30th. I would encourage people, if they want to get a head start on that, I think we have a tour. I think January 21st is the next tour. But we do have these tours that are happening monthly throughout the year. We have quite a few grade levels that are full, but we do have openings in a number of grade levels, and so I would encourage families to come and check it out.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I'm looking at your website now. It is as easy as going to your website, iLeadSantaClarita.org, or, probably even easier than that is just Google SCVi. And right at the top of your website, you've got a button for schedule a tour. You've got another button for events where families can sign up for that virtual information night on January 30th. And then on that right-hand corner, you've got an enrollment application. So, let's go ahead and fill it out. Want to remind families we are now enrolling for next school year, 2025-26. So if you're looking to make a move or enroll your kindergartner, your TK student for next year, go ahead and fill out that application now and get your kids in the enrollment lottery. And if you're looking to make that move for second semester, we've still got a couple of spots at SCVi open for this semester as we just got started a couple days ago. Again, head over to iLeadSantaClarita.org or Google SCVi for more information. Chad, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Looking forward to the great things that you and Martha continue to do with your team of talented educators at SCVi. You have a great weekend. Once again, that's iLeadSantaClarita.org or just Google SCVi. Check out their website, sign up for a tour, click the Enroll Now button to get started today. There's no application fee, so fill it out. If you change your mind later, there's no harm, no foul. So, again, iLeadSantaClarita.org. Check them out. When we get back, we are celebrating, well, I don't know if we're celebrating, but we're commemorating an anniversary today, a 31st anniversary. Where were you 31 years ago today? We'll find out when we get back. I am Matt Watson. You're listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. And, we just wrapped up with the directors of SCVi, Martha Spansel-Pellico and Chad Powell. Got a lot of great things going on out there, including their virtual information night coming up on January 30th, 5:30 p.m. And I see that producer Sarah is Johnny on the spot. Well, I guess Jenny on the spot, dropping links into our Facebook Live feed so that you can just click on those links and still continue to listen to our show. Yeah, because you should like the sound of my voice as much as I do. But producer Sarah, thank you very much. We've got those informational events coming up at SCVi, so go ahead and log on and sign up for the virtual information night. Sign up for a tour. But like I said, a little hack, there's no application fee, so fill out the application. If you decide later that it's not the move for you, then you just pull your application, no harm, no foul. But if you do decide that it's the place for you, it reserves your spot in line, so go ahead and check them out. So I asked the question before the break, where were you 31 years ago today? Do you remember? It sounds kind of like a random number, random date, 31 years ago today. But if you were here in Southern California like I was, the date, when I say it, might ring a bell. January 17th. Jen, you weren't living out here at that time, were
No,
you?
I was not. I'm a transplant, so
Okay.
yeah, we were living in the Midwest at that time.
Alrighty. Well, I've been out here. Well, I've been in Southern California my whole life, but living here in Santa Clarita on January 17th, 1994. That's right. Most of you have probably hit on it already. If you haven't seen it on social media, folks are posting. Today is the anniversary of the Great Northridge earthquake. And yeah, so thinking back, do y'all remember where you were 31 years ago today? I remember I was in college. I was at Cal State Northridge, which of course was incredibly, intensely affected by the earthquake. It was, what was it? About 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And like a good college kid, I was still awake.
You were
Just getting
studying,
in.
of course, right?
No. We were on winter break, Jen.
Oh, sure.
We were still on
sure.
winter break
All right.
because we were on the semester system there, and so it was still part of winter session, and,
All right.
and so well, golly, I was at a friend's house that evening and was just getting home, and it's funny. I remember I had just gotten home and kind of laid down to go to sleep, and my bed started shaking, and like the SoCal kid does, you just kind of, oh yeah, there's an earthquake. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. And then, after a good 20, 30 seconds,
Yeah.
you start to realize this is a really big earthquake. I should probably get up and get out of
Yeah.
bed. And, of course, as soon as I made that decision, that's when my stepbrother came screaming into the hallway and freaking out. So as I'm trying to calm him down, I'm realizing his reaction was probably a little bit more appropriate than mine. My sort of understated reaction, because as I looked over his shoulder, I could see the water sloshing out of the swimming pool.
Wow.
It was pretty intense. I think the final number, in fact, I'm just kind of trying to pull it out of my ear here. I could probably Google it. I think the final number that the government came up with was a 6.7, 6.9, something like that. But I remember, conspiracy theorists will tell you that it was actually quite a bit bigger than that. Yeah, producer Sarah, here she is. That's why she's producer Sarah. She says 6.8. But I remember folks saying that labs in Japan and in Sweden and different countries around the world were putting it well over 7.0. But it was a big one. It was definitely a big one. As a matter of fact, very surreal feeling. I live up in Saugus, and as as a good friend of mine likes to refer to it as deep Saugus, right? If you're here in downtown Newhall like we are at the station right now, you got to drive a couple of minutes to get into deep Saugus. But I remember as the sun came up, I got a phone call from my brother. Hey, our church is about to be inspected by FEMA, and we're going to get red tagged, and we got to get down here. We got to get the sound equipment. We got to get the instruments. We got to get everything out before this building gets shut down. And I remember driving south on, at the time it was San Fernando Road. We now call it Railroad. And just every quarter mile, seeing the damage getting worse and worse and worse. I remember actually, we at our place didn't have any damage. Like I said, our pool lost quite a bit of water, but no real damage. But even as I got down to about midway down on Railroad, kind of across the street from the Saugus Cafe there, drove past a buddy's apartment, and I realized, I should swing by and check on him. And as I pulled into the driveway of his apartment, I could look into his apartment and I could see his bedroom furniture, which was odd for me because his bedroom didn't have a window. The building had actually split in half right there at his bedroom, and I spoke with him and his fiancée at the time, and they actually kind of jumped through this crack in the wall out onto the balcony and out of the building. yeah, ended up down here in downtown Newhall where my church was at the time, and as pastor was kind of trying to delay the FEMA folks from doing their work, and we were kind of in the back room shuttling all the valuables out, knowing that we weren't going to be able to get back into the building later on. But yeah, I remember it was a really interesting kind of thing. Of course, earthquake hits in an instant. It's over in a minute, maybe two if you're unlucky. But then the effects of an earthquake that big last for months, for years. And I remember, gosh, it was over a year later. I remember still seeing the piles of garbage and rubble that people were moving from their homes as they were rebuilding in the San Fernando Valley. Of course, the famous footage that was on TV right away with the college, it was CSUN, collapsing tragically. Some of the apartments and dorms that students were in collapsing, leading to loss of life. The science lab, whatever chemicals they got in there, that collapsed and then burnt down. And it was just devastating. And I remember thinking, gosh, that earthquake was over a year ago, and people are still recovering, still rebuilding. And I remember even, a year and a half, 2 years later, folks talking about, still working to get my insurance money, still working to get my FEMA money, and how interesting, how surreal, 31 years ago today, and now we're dealing with something that's not quite as instant, but much more devastating. These wildfires, like we've never seen before.
Never, no. And you're talking about how long it'll take to recover. I just keep thinking of that, like. Sure, everyone will rebuild, and we'll look back on this and 5-10 years and have rebuilt at that point. But just the minute little details of cleaning it up first. We have to get to that point first. And these teams, like, where do you start? Let's make sure that we've recovered. Hopefully there are no more bodies that that they need to dig through the rubble to find. And it's such a daunting task. And, kudos to those who have to do that job, because you have to be able to put your emotions aside first, and then do your job. It's just so it's daunting, I think, is probably the best word to describe
I heard somebody talking yesterday about how, we're counting structures, X thousands of structures. No, these aren't structures. These aren't houses. These are homes. These are people's lives. And you're right. I can't imagine. First of all, some folks not even allowed to go back to their homes yet.
They can't go back yet,
And fire's still burning, right? And still affecting homes. But then afterwards, having to go back and pick through and see what of my life and my memories remain. It is devastating. And to your point, it's going to take, in some cases, 5-10 years for people to fully recover. Some folks, obviously, loss of life and other things tragically will never recover. This will just forever shape, who they are and their personal experience. But it's just, it's absolutely incredible. It's devastating. And we see, we've got neighbors all across Southern California dealing with this right now, and we're resilient. And I love seeing the helpers, right? Like Fred Rogers said, look for the helpers. I listened to a whole radio show yesterday, a broadcast from the Dream Center where Pastor Matthew's down there, he and his team, and they're getting supplies out. Pastor Matthew himself was in a charter school in Altadena passing out laptops to kids because their school burnt down, and they're going back to that kind of reminiscence of COVID era. You got no school to go to, but you still got to go to school. And then also, obviously, water and supplies and things like that. We take care of each other because it's what we do. But it's going to take a lot longer with the devastation of these fires than that earthquake 31 years ago. That earthquake shaped my experience, shaped a lot of our experience, and these fires are going to do the same. But we can do it. We can pull each other back together. We are SoCal, so let's do this. Let's take care of each other. It's what we do. Stick around. When we get back, we'll be talking to the city librarian of the city of Santa Clarita, Gina Robertson. We'll be right back on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is Matt Watson, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am joined now by Gina Robertson. She is the city librarian here in the city of Santa Clarita. I mentioned it in the first break. You know, our libraries here in Santa Clarita used to be part of the county library system. As a matter of fact, I remember wondering who that guy with the glasses is as I walked in and saw Supervisor Antonovich's picture up because it was the county that supervised us. But in a shift a few years back, Santa Clarita took over their own library system. And boy, have we really taken off. And Gina, well, she runs them all. Gina began her career in public libraries in 2008 as a library assistant at the County of San Bernardino Public Libraries. In 2013, Gina joined the Santa Clarita Public Library as a youth services librarian at the Canyon Country branch. In 2015, from March to June, Gina transitioned to the Simi Valley Public Library as an adult services librarian and returned to the Santa Clarita Public Library in June of 2015 as the Old Town Newhall branch manager. Later, she was named the Valencia Library Administrator, where her duties consisted of overseeing the day-to-day operations of that location, and she also coached and mentored the full-time staff there. But recently, when her colleague and work bestie Shannon Vonnegut took a position in another system, Gina was named the Santa Clarita City Librarian. Gina, welcome back to Eye on the Valley.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you. I'm glad you're back. You were here a little bit less than a year ago, and so how have you been? How have things been at the library the last year or so?
Yeah, it's been a great year at the library. We actually have had some really great programming happen. We have core programs, so our big programs. We had Literacy Festival, One Story, One City. But most notably, we wrapped up a 2-year grant program, the Youth Arts Initiative, which brought some specialized training in photography, different art media, videography, to teenagers in our area that were identified by school social workers, by community connections as needing some extra support. So we wrapped that 2-year program this year, and now we are featuring their artwork at the Canyon Country Library. So if you haven't seen it, stop by. Canyon Country is featuring a lot of the photographs, and some of the artwork from that program. So those have been wonderful. We also have a great partnership with the Tatavium where we are highlighting some cultural relevant materials, and some artifacts from the Natural History Museum have been paired by the tribe and the Natural History Museum staff to give you a tote that you can check out at the library to educate yourself on maybe a rabbit pelt, coyote skin, some rattles and things like that that are culturally relevant and also pair with some stories. And we're actually working on further development of those kits with the tribe to represent some language learning tools as well.
Fantastic. And I love that about our libraries. Obviously, what pops into people's heads first is library. Go check out a couple books, read the books, return them a few weeks later. But y'all are so much more than that. It's so exciting. So let's get back to you a little bit. I mentioned how illustrious of a career you've had, and then San Bernardino, Simi Valley, and then, of course, right here at several different branches at our library system. How did you get into a career with the libraries? How did you decide on being a librarian as a career?
So I was a library teenager. I found the library probably around 12 years old and started volunteering during the library summer reading program for the County of San Bernardino.
All right.
I left as an older teen to go find my very first job. And when I graduated from UC Riverside in 2008, it was obviously a recession. I was working a job in the grocery industry and needed a supplemental income. So I returned to the library in Bloomington, actually, and immediately within 2 weeks discovered this is actually where I need to be for the rest of my life.
Aww.
I had a challenging interaction with a child and his mother. His mother didn't speak English. He had a science project that was due. It was challenging in a lot of ways because my Spanish skills were pretty minimal at the time. And when he left about an hour and a half later, he was elated to have completed his project. His mother was so grateful for the assistance that we were able to provide. And I remember thinking, I am mentally exhausted from all of this translation and, trying to help build this science project and explaining what was happening. But I had never felt more satisfied or more fulfilled in my life. And I went home and applied to my master's program for library and information science and never left the library again.
That is beautiful. It's really cool to be able to make a difference and know you're making a difference. That's amazing. So you mentioned growing up in San Bernardino. You went to school in Riverside. How'd you find our humble little hamlet here in Santa Clarita? What brought you here?
So I actually worked for the county of San Bernardino under a gentleman named Ed Ketchikowski was the county librarian in San Bernardino. He actually ended up being a regional supervisor for the contract service that oversaw operations here in Santa Clarita. When I graduated with my degree, I actually went to the Moore Park Library first, which is another LSSI contract library, and worked there for about a year. And when they were about to open the Old Town New Hall Library in 2012, Ed reached out to that contract and said, you know, we could use some support for this grand opening event. And so I started here in Santa Clarita just as a temporary assistant, helping out on the weekends. And then when an opportunity presented itself in Canyon Country, I moved fully to Santa Clarita, and the rest is history, I guess.
Fantastic. So we've mentioned, gosh, I don't know, Gina, have we mentioned all of them? You are the city librarian, so you oversee operations at all of our library locations. How many do we have now, and where are we at?
So we still have 3 physical locations.
Okay.
Obviously, we have an online e-library that's open 24/7, but the most exciting thing is, in addition to our Valencia, Old Town New Hall, and Joanne Darcy Canyon Country libraries, this year we are launching our first mobile library solution that will
cool.
act as just a mobile unit that brings materials and programming, education, Wi-Fi to the community at different stops.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So sort of 5 locations, right? You've got the Canyon Country, the New Hall, Valencia. You've got the mobile library. Love that. Mobile Wi-Fi. As long as you can run fast enough, you can stay online. And then also the e-library. That is
Right.
fantastic. Any other locations coming soon?
None yet.
Probably
so-
shouldn't put you on the spot, should I?
None yet, but we are really excited to be able to reach some areas of our community that now we have, had some significant growth since the
Yeah.
launch of the Old Town New Hall Library.
Yeah.
And so we are really excited about the mobile library's ability to reach parts of our community that maybe are not in as close proximity anymore
Sure.
to a physical location.
Sure. Fantastic. I love that y'all are doing that. And, just opening, you talked about all the different things that you're doing that are so far and beyond just checking out books. You've got events all the time. What are some of the more popular events at the library?
Right now, we're seeing a lot of growth actually in adult programming. So we're doing some really great things for adults. We have crafts, we've had some lectures, we had some kind of information session type events. We do our Books and Brews, which is a book club that meets at local breweries to discuss the reading. So that's really good for those 21 and over.
Nice.
But we have had a lot of innovation, a lot of creativity from our librarian staff that has really bolstered adult participation in library programs from ages 21 to 45.
Sure.
We have really tried to focus on what are the needs of that community and how can we best meet them.
Love that. So yeah, programming for all ages. Now I do remember, and in fact, I was so impressed, and it really warmed my heart the way you and your entire staff at the libraries really stepped it up during the pandemic when most people would think, well, pandemic, libraries are shut down. That's it. Just go home and learn to make sourdough bread like the rest of us, and that's it. But no, y'all doubled, tripled, quadrupled the types of services that you were offering, especially for students who weren't able to go to the after-school tutoring on campus and things like that. And I know some of those services you've kept, and some of them are not necessary anymore. But can you talk about some of the ways you as a system, you talked about how rewarding it was to help that young man early on with his science project, but as a library system, how do y'all help students and young people beyond just being a resource for books?
Yeah, obviously we help students in the library all the time, but what we really saw post-COVID and what continues today is that we are offering a lot of support to students from home. So we do have a
Yeah.
Help Now program that's available in our e-library that will connect students with online tutors to allow them to ask questions, get writing review, to submit things for editing and suggestions. So there's a lot of resources there, especially at a time when maybe there's not the financial ability to provide after school tutoring. Maybe it's just not an accessible time for families.
Sure.
So this service is available after school hours and actually until about 10 p.m. For students to log on and connect with a live tutor that they can ask questions to. They can actually share a whiteboard to demonstrate how the work is processed through for math problems, complicated math problems. And that's available for everyone from K to actually college.
That is fantastic. Working with schools, there's actually quite a bit of funding out there coming to an end pretty soon, but a lot of funding that's operating after school tutoring programs. And I know one of the biggest struggles that schools have is, okay, we've got the funding, we've got people in position, but this kid that really needs the help can't stay because he's got to catch the bus to go home, or it's his big brother's taking him home, or what have you. So the fact that y'all offer that from home, as long as kids can get online, they've got that free tutoring.
Yeah, and asynchronous education, I think, is super popular. We actually subscribe also to a service called LinkedIn Learning, which it will allow you to go on and take courses in things like Excel, photography, artwork, history. So even as an adult learner, you can log in to kind of an asynchronous learning experience through LinkedIn Learning.
That is fantastic. So. Speaking of LinkedIn, and I'm getting a note here from producer Sarah that you all have resources for job seekers. Now, I don't know. Does that mean folks that are looking for a job at the library, or folks that are out of work and need support getting a job in other areas as well?
In addition to hosting programs throughout the year that help adults navigate writing a resume, how to prepare for interviews, we also have an online resource called Job Now. It is actually closely related to Help Now, which is the homework program, but the Job Now program has its own job board. It has resume feedback and assistance in writing a resume. There's also tips and tricks there to improve your interview. So it's a great resource for those who are looking for a new career, maybe changing fields, don't know how to best sell their experience yet.
That is fantastic. So pretty much the idea of the 21st century library is, books, awesome, every book in the world, but you need to learn, you need to grow, start at the library. That is fantastic. Whether it's any one of your three physical locations, Canyon Country, Valencia, or Newhall, or your virtual location, your mobile library, that is fantastic. Gina Robertson, City Librarian for the City of Santa Clarita, joining me this morning. When we get back, we'll talk about some of the other great events that our local libraries have coming up this year, and some of the great programming that you can look forward to. I'm Matt Watson. This is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley, and you're listening to your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. I am Matt Watson, your host, and you are listening to SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I'm joined this morning by Santa Clarita City Librarian Gina Robertson. Gina, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We were talking before about some of the amazing services provided at the library and how y'all continue to grow and just serve the need here in the community. Gina, during the break, I was looking at your website. In addition to all of the amazing programming that you've got through the physical library, the e-library, I'm looking, you've got a button here for passports. Can folks get their passports at the library?
So we do offer passport services at all three of our library locations, and passport offices are for processing new applications, children's applications, and select renewals. Usually if they have expired by a certain number of years, you can come in and start the process all over again.
Okay.
But our passport agents really do take something that can be an intimidating, very technical, high-pressure process of applying for an application for a U.S. passport and make it very straightforward and very simple. We are actually hosting same-day services at the Old Town New Hall Library on Sundays. So there are more details on our website, but that is a very limited service kind of across our region
Yeah.
to do same day appointments. We do have appointments that you can book online on our website up to 30 days in advance, but the same day service at Old Town New Hall is really our new addition to help meet the needs of the Valley.
At your website, I got to tell you, your website is one of the best out there. Super easy to navigate, to understand. Love seeing our city mascot, Sammy Clarita, right here, checking out a bunch of books. But yeah, super easy to navigate and understand. You've got browsing info, information on the e-library. You got a button for the live homework help, which is great. I know I hear lots of parents say, oh gosh, my kid's getting so old, he's gone beyond me in math, and I can't help him with his homework anymore. Well, go to the library website. We talked about passport services. Gina, what other programming does the library offer? What am I sleeping on? What am I missing? Is there something that might surprise people to learn that they can use the library for?
Well, I think one thing that always surprises people about the library is kind of what you mentioned earlier, that we're not just books. So we are physical items, obviously. We have a ton of books that you can borrow from any of our 3 libraries. The real, I think, unknown about public library is the library itself, the physical locations act as a service. We are there with Wi-Fi. What we've seen actually by people who are affected by power outages and fires, and even when the economy is not that great and people are looking for resources, maybe there's higher unemployment, the library really serves as a hub for helping connect people to resources. So whether it is that you need to come in and use our internet access, use one of our public computers, or you need help writing your resume, maybe you just need space for your child to meet other children, to learn and explore, the library really fills a lot of those voids. So when we talk to people about everything the library does, there tends to be a focus on these digital resources that we have that maybe are lesser known. But I think there's also a lot of importance in the function of our physical library spaces, and hopefully soon our mobile library space, to bring kind of what is needed by the community at a time that it is most impactful.
Yeah, definitely. Just a hub for the community. It's funny that you mentioned the Wi-Fi service. I was reading an article the other day, and in a pretty big shift in their services, Starbucks is going to start throwing you out if you're not buying their coffee. You're not going to be able to hang out at Starbucks and use their Wi-Fi all day. What am I going to, if people were worried in the article, what am I going to do? I take my kids to Starbucks out. Go to the library. Don't go to the coffee shop. Go to the library. They got the Wi-Fi. They've got people to help with homework, help you with your resume.
And find a new book.
And find a new book. Absolutely. And producer Sarah, She's very mobile first. She talks about how she loves downloading. You've got thousands of titles of audiobooks, ebooks that you can download to your Kindle or your tablet.
Yeah, our Libby app is one of our most popular services. You can replace a lot of subscription services by focusing in on our e-library and learning what we offer, but we do have streaming video, we have downloadable music, we have digital magazines, e-audiobooks and audiobooks that are all available free to any card holder, and a lot of them have easy to navigate apps that you can download on your phone. Okay,
free to any card holder, and that leads me to my next question. You got to be a member. That you can't just walk in and grab a whole bunch of books. How do folks who don't have a library card get one? How can they access materials?
Yeah, so it really couldn't be easier. You can pre-fill your registration application on our website at santaclaritalibrary.com, and that will give you a temporary ID number. Once you have a temporary ID number, you can come in and it's very quick to register. If you don't pre-register, you can walk up to any service desk in any of our 3 locations, and with just presenting your identification card, we can issue you a library card, and they are free to any resident of California.
Okay.
If you are out of state, there is a fee to subscribe to be a member of the library.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Absolutely. Okay. So you mentioned it when we first started. One of your biggest events of the year is coming up soon. I'm talking about the One Story, One City event. Can you tell our listeners, first of all, what the idea is behind One Story, One City? And then I don't know if you're allowed to give us a sneak preview or if you can drop us a hint on what story we're going to be looking at this year.
So our One Story, One City program is our adult geared program that is a community conversation. So the goal of the One Story, One City program is to really have the entire community contribute to a conversation about a piece of literature every year. And this year, our title is very exciting. It will be announced in early February, so look
Okay.
out for that announcement.
Coming up in a couple weeks.
But there's crafts, there's activities, there's a visit from the author. If you are an adult in Santa Clarita and you're not participating in One Story, One City, I encourage you to. We have had folks become lifelong friends, build new book clubs together, born out of some of the programming that happens in One Story, One City.
Yeah, and you really do incorporate the city. I remember a couple years ago, the One Story, One City, some of the activities included a hike because the book that you were reading had to do with getting out in nature, and then different crafts and different events. It really is a really cool event, and I'm sure it takes you and your team quite a while to come up with everything. But yeah, kind of the world's biggest book club, and then smaller relationships developing out of that. That is very exciting. What are some of your favorite programs or events that the city of Santa Clarita provides each year through its library system, Gina?
Well, one of the spring events that we look forward to the most is the Dia de los Niños, Dia de los Libros event, and that will be coming again this April, and we do host it in Canyon Country. And that program really ties together the importance of lifelong learning and early literacy. So the library's goal is always to build a stronger community through literacy and preparedness for education. So if you are a child under the age of 4, we are encouraging you now to register for the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten program so that you can be better prepared to enter kindergarten by having been exposed to all of this literature and all of these words. This program really allows us to market that, to market the importance to the community of early literacy, getting your child reading, having home libraries, singing, talking, and really the development that happens prior to entering kindergarten so that we hopefully can create lovers of the library, obviously, that we can then work with, as children, as teenagers, and then hopefully hang on to them when they're adults so that we have the ability to really have a better understanding of the library and its purpose for the longevity.
Yeah, and it's so important to build that love of reading early on. But I know there's so many folks out there that say, yeah, I know it's important for me to help my child and help instill that love of reading, but I didn't have that model growing up. I didn't really, nobody really set the stage for me, so I don't know how to do that with my kid. The library is a great place to start. Throw your kid in the car or jump on the bus or just walk down to the library. They're conveniently located. Let the library help you get your child's love for reading started. And if the model wasn't set for you, take your kid to the library, get them involved in some of the programming, check out a book yourself, and the best way to do it for your kid is to model it, right? So let's go to the library together. Let's get some books for you. Let's get some books for mom and dad. Speaking of which, Gina, it's January, and we still haven't gotten. Actually, I think is today Quitters Day. I think what is it? Yeah, the second Friday of January is Quitters Day. Today is the day that most people break their New Year's resolutions, but not everybody. And I know there's a huge campaign to hold on to that. And you know what? If you already broke your New Year's resolution, tomorrow can start the new year for you. So for folks who have decided that, this is the year I'm going to read more. I'm going to read 100 books this year. Or my kid just turned 5 and I really do need to start getting them into reading. And so I want to do the same. Do you have any books or authors that you would recommend? I'm sure you get this question all the time as a librarian. That anything that you would recommend that are a great way to help readers keep that resolution rolling?
Yeah, so I think that reading recommendations, right, are such a personal thing. We meet with people every day who are looking for suggestions for their next read, and it really is so much of a conversation, so much of what did you like, what did you not like, what themes do you like, what kind of genre are you interested in? So reading recommendations, I would say, probably aren't the best way to keep your resolution, but I think there are practices in which you can utilize to be more successful in reading more this year. I know that for me personally, I'm a busy parent. I have, a big job, and I listen to audiobooks in my car and in the shower and when I'm on the treadmill, listen to audiobooks. And I also made a resolution to be more actively reading. And so I have taken up reading graphic novels because I can consume them in shorter spurts when I have the time. And because of that, I doubled my reading last year because I was primarily only listening to audiobooks, but I don't have a commute. And so it was very, very slow progress on that front. I listen at 1.25 in case anyone's interested. There's a huge conversation about how quickly you listen to your audiobooks. But the practice of really finding time in your day and finding the right material, right? If I'm reading heavy nonfiction and I have to stop every 10 or 15 minutes to do something else, I'm probably going to lose interest. But I found that I can consume a graphic novel every week if I, just kind of fit it in where I have time, whether it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. I think people may have this conception that they have to be able to sit down and read for several hours or they can't listen to audiobooks unless they have a commute. And that's really not true. It's building practices in which it works for you in your life. And then you can have more success in reaching your reading goals this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And what a great way to meet that goal, to start with graphic novels or audiobooks, and then you'll start to figure out what genres you like, what authors you like, and then you can kind of pull that thread and follow that rabbit trail. Gina, what else are we missing? What else do people need to know about our local libraries and the services that y'all provide?
Well, I think one thing that we are working towards is also really the development of our collection and having responsive resources, having materials that people are excited about. I think coming in and speaking with your librarians, talking to the staff at the library, giving your feedback, all of those things are wonderful ways to connect more with your library. Going online, exploring what resources we have there, call the library and ask us to help you navigate the e-library. A lot of those things can seem intimidating if you're not a user, but chances are now that everyone probably has a friend who is a user, and if you don't, you always have a friend at the library who can walk you through it.
That's a great point. Your staff is always so friendly. I know, doing something new, doing something different can be a little bit intimidating, but your staff really breaks that down as soon as folks walk into the door, whether it's just, hey, my kid needs help with homework and I don't know where to start, or you mentioned you can provide help with finding a job, and so I'm here, but I don't know what to do. There's not that, look down your nose at, oh, really, you're new at the library, you've never done this before, well, gosh, I don't know how how to start helping you. No, your staff is the exact opposite of that. Very welcoming and pulling people in.
Well, thank you. And in January, we actually see a lot of people who've received new tablets, new phones, new gadgets.
Yes.
And they have a lot of questions about how to best use them and how to utilize them. And a lot of times what we see is that people will get new e-readers or new tablets, and they need help getting started. And our staff are more than happy to work with individuals to make sure that they can access our resources regularly. Once you get started, I promise you it really is straightforward and simple, and we're there to kind of get you to that point.
Yeah, one of the things that we haven't mentioned, one of my favorite services that y'all provide is movies and music, right? That's I remember back in the day going to Blockbuster, but y'all you've got that library price, but an incredible library of movies and music, don't you?
Yeah, so we have physical DVDs in our locations, but we also have streaming services. So we have a Canopy service that's streaming video. We have a Hoopla service, which is streaming video, downloadable books, and music. And then we also have Freegal, where you can download free music selections directly from the Sony catalog. So that's exciting. And we have our Flipster, which is magazines. So we have online resources pretty much for any consumer. But at a time when, subscription services can be a huge bulk of people's monthly expenses, and you have to have so many to get to see everything you want, it is helpful to have one that is free to you and provided with just your library card. You can search for obscure titles, indie titles, and then mainstream titles as well.
I love that. Yeah, forget Spotify and Netflix. The local library here in Santa Clarita has got it all for you, from ebooks to music to movies, services, different events going on in the city. Yeah, you mentioned it already, but I want to go back. You mentioned Dia de los Niños, Dia del Libro, Day of the Small Child, Day of the Book. Remind our listeners when that's coming up and what that is.
So that'll actually be in late April at the Joanne Darcy Canyon Country Library, and you
Okay.
can check on our website for updates about it. But we are actually hoping that there will be a special surprise with the mobile library that happens at that event as well. We have in the past also had a llama. We've had some really fun carnival games. So there are always exciting things happening at Dia de los Niños. And of course, we will be giving away free books to help build families' home libraries.
That is fantastic. And you've got One Story, One City. Is it One City, One Story? One Story,
One Story, One City.
One Story, One City coming up here in February, about to
In
announce the
March,
title.
yes.
Or in March, I'm sorry, but you're going to announce the title here in February so folks can get the book and start reading that. And I know we've got such a generous community as well, and folks always looking for volunteer opportunities. How can residents support the library?
So the Friends of the Library for the Santa Clarita Public Library is a volunteer group that the proceeds from all of their fundraising directly go back to the library by way of programming support. So they sponsor our large programs, Summer Reading, One Story, One City, Dia de los Niños, and the Teen Fan Fest. So if you would like to support the library, become a friend of the Santa Clarita Public Library or a volunteer at the Santa Clarita Public Library. So the Friends actually run our used bookstores within each location. So Friends volunteers come in every day, process through donations, get them ready for the storefront, and then the sales from those stores directly benefit the library via sponsorship.
Well, that is fantastic. Gina, and again, folks can check out your website. Super easy to remember, santaclaritalibrary.com.
Yes.
And I can't get over how easy to navigate your website is. Hours, locations right here, all the different services that you provide, and then you've just got books scrolling. So if folks want to get a book and don't know, just get on the website. Their website really is fantastic. Again, santaclaritalibrary.com. Gina, thank you so much for joining me again today. We'll have to have you back a little bit sooner next time. You know what? When you pitch the One Story, One City program, we'll have to have you back. Thank you for all you and your team do to serve our community. Gina Robertson, City Librarian for the City of Santa Clarita. Get out to the library, everybody. Just not this Monday, because y'all are closed for the holiday, aren't you?
Yes, we are, but we will be here on Tuesday.
Fantastic. So they'll be here on Tuesday, and we will be back in just a moment. We got Big T coming in. You know, they sent Big T on the road this week, but that's not holding him down. This always gets a little bit dicey, and you won't want to miss it. Stick around. Big T, give us a call. I am Matt Watson. This is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station, 98.1 FM and 1220 AM. This is SCVi and iLead School's Eye on the Valley. I am your host, Matt Watson. What a great show. This morning we had Martha Spansel-Pellico and Chad Powell there, the leaders of SCVi, your classroom-based free public charter school, TK through 12th grade. They are now enrolling for the second semester. So if you're looking to make a mid-year shift with your kid, TK through 12th grade again, they are a free public charter school. Check them out. Just Google SCVi, but their website is iLeadSantaClarita.org. We also had Gina Robertson, the city librarian, in this morning talking about all the great programming at the City of Santa Clarita Public Libraries. They've got 3 different locations as well as their e-location. Check them out at santaclaritalibrary.com. So lots of great things going on in and around the city. But now it is time for Big T's 5 Minutes of Fame. Y'all know Big T. He's an executive and philanthropist. He's an amazing father, husband, and dog dad. And while he's not getting credit for it, he played a huge role in negotiating the recent ceasefire in the Middle East. Yeah, Big T threatened to go over there and see what's going on for himself. And both the Israelis and Palestinians said, no, don't do that. We can get along. So kudos to Big T for that. Here he is, everybody. He's Mom's favorite. Big T, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Maddie. I got the solution to the problem over there. It's just, they just all need Jesus.
Okay. All right. I tell you what, let's see how that goes.
Right?
All right, I can't believe that President Carter couldn't think of that. Ah,
Who knows? Who knows? I'll go
okay.
have a look around. See.
All right. There we go. So, Big T, we typically start with I think Papa's pick of the week. Yeah. But college football season is pretty much over. We got the national championship coming up Monday night. Did Papa send in a pick?
Yeah, he did. Papa. We talked about it before the break. He had a rough year this year. He went 3-8 with his picks.
3-8.
But he wants a piece of the natty, right?
Okay.
So Papa is taking the Ohio State Buckeyes and laying the 8 points.
Oh boy, our buddy Brian Kegley will be glad to hear that. But
Well, you know what that means for Frogger, right?
that means I'm going Notre Dame.
Papa is 3-8.
Right? I tell you what, there's
Perfect.
money to be
Yeah, I
had
got a
by
couple-
fading Papa.
Correct. I got a couple of fun facts before we get to trivia, if that's cool.
Love to hear some fun facts, as long as they're fun and as long as they're facts.
They are fun and they are facts. So
All right.
you talked a little bit about the earthquake this morning that was January 17th in 1994, the Northridge earthquake.
31 years ago today.
Yeah, it caused so many major blackouts in the Los Angeles area that during the hours of darkness, something strange happened. People began to call 911 to report a strange ethereal light in the sky. What they were actually seeing was the Milky Way galaxy for the first time. Light pollution was so bad in the city of Los Angeles that many people had never seen it before.
There's these teeny tiny lights in the sky, and it's freaking me
twinkly
out.
things.
Yeah, those are stars.
Did it quake up there too?
Yeah, definitely.
Another fun fact I have for you, Maddie, since we got a little bit of time for two of them. Have you heard of the Adopt a Highway program?
I have, yeah.
Okay, now give me a little bit of rope. Trust Big T. Honestly, I won't lead you wrong. But
Okay.
organizations for the Adopt a Highway program, they can sponsor a portion of the highway and name it.
Right.
Did you know back in 2000, the KKK adopted a stretch of Highway 55 in St. Louis, Missouri?
Yikes.
Complaints came in and a legal battle immediately ensued. No surprise, right?
Sure.
And the Eighth Circuit Court ruled it unconstitutional and a violation of the First Amendment of the Constitution. So you know what the Missouri Department of Transportation did?
What'd they do?
They named that stretch of road the Rosa Parks Highway.
All right.
I remember this well. I'm from St. Louis.
Yeah, you
originally,
are.
and
Okay.
this was, to say it was headline news is an understatement. This was a massive story for a long time, and it it upset a lot of people that they wanted to name the highway that. And then once they brought in the Rosa Parks idea, everybody was happy, and it was like, what a great idea. It was a good way to kind of balance something that was really controversial.
So what was the plan? They were going to name it the KKK Highway
they
the White
wanted-
Power
They named
Way?
it.
Or
Yeah, just keep it with the KKK.
Wow.
Or they were going to adopt it, I guess. And
Sure.
they said, that's fine. You can do that. Freedom of speech, like you just said, Big T. But we're gonna rename it.
Yeah.
So everybody was very glad once they renamed that stretch of that highway.
Sure.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, I can imagine it's a big deal. You know what else is a big deal is the day that the highway first finds out that it is adopted.
Where's my real dad?
Right.
If it doesn't like being adopted, it can just take the next off ramp.
Right. Don't worry about it, Tony. Adopted means that you're wanted.
All righty, I got some trivia for you, Maddie, but you didn't ask me what I did during the break when you guys were on break.
You know what? We did take some time off. You know why I take so much time off, right, Tony? Because I get so much
'Cause you
time
can.
off. Yeah, because I can. So I know you took some time as well. What'd you do during the break?
I worked like the rest of the world.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks to be you, man.
Right?
Tony,
So I got
well,
some-
you
I
didn't
got
ask
some
me
trivia.
what I did during my break.
I know what you did. We talk every day, Maddie.
I know. I went and visited my big brother.
Aw.
You did come to see me.
did.
So I got some trivia related to business, commerce, and fashion, if you're ready for that.
We are. Unfortunately, Engineer Andrew is doing the very millennial thing and taking vacation for his birthday. And Rich joined us last time. Rich was great. He actually had a great first run, but it looks like he was a little bit scared. So it's just Jen and I this morning, Tony.
All righty, let's roll.
Let's do it.
All right. What kind of animal was Jeffrey, the longtime mascot of the currently defunct retailer Toys R Us?
Jen.
Oh.
Jen.
He was a giraffe.
Giraffe is correct. Which of the world's 25 largest retail companies was founded by a 17-year-old Swede named
Frogger.
Frogger.
Saved him from having to pronounce that name. I got to go with IKEA.
Did. IKEA is correct.
Right. Tony, don't worry about it. If you
The
can't
Snoop-
pronounce the name, there's a graphic in the little instruction booklet there.
There is, but I just like the parts when I build something, I always leave one letter out. The Snoopy doll soared to popularity in 1969, a year after the character became the safety mascot of what U.S. government organization?
Jen.
Oh.
Jen.
This is probably wrong. The Air Force.
Incorrect.
Oh, that'd be awesome because
I know it's wrong, but how cute would that be?
the safety mascot, I'm going to go with OSHA.
Keep in mind, I said at the beginning, the Snoopy astronaut doll.
Oh, well, that
duh.
would be NASA.
Okay,
That
no
doesn't
point.
count for either one of us. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
I love that. The Air Force.
Good Threads is a private label fashion brand that's under the domain of which mega online retailer?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Amazon.
Amazon is correct.
The only mega online
Yeah,
retailer I
yeah.
know.
In 2012, Cadillac Fairview bought out the leases of what retailer for $400 million? Many of those locations later became Nordstrom's. Nothing?
Wow.
Frogger.
Frogger.
Robinson May.
Incorrect. I got bought by Macy's.
Oh, okay. Do they still do their parade?
Sears. Sears. Yes, they do.
Oh, okay.
So it was Sears. What southern state will you find the Home Depot headquarters?
Oh.
Jen.
There we
I
go.
don't know. Georgia.
Georgia's correct.
Ooh,
Whoa! Check that out. I was going to say, you only got about 18 to choose from. Yeah. Nice pull, Jen.
Total guess.
All right, we're gonna stay with headquarters. Where's Target headquartered?
Frogger.
Frogger.
Mississippi.
Incorrect. I believe the Twins play baseball at that arena. That's your hint for all of these.
Producer Sarah got it
They're
before
located-
the twin hint.
Yeah. So Minneapolis, Minnesota.
There you go.
Where's Walmart headquartered?
Frogger.
Jen.
Go ahead, Jen.
Frogger.
No, I think Jen got me on that one.
Oh gosh, now I'm Alabama, not Alabama. Arkansas.
Boom.
Arkansas. I knew it was an A.
Do you know the name of the town?
No, I do not.
It's Bentonville. I've actually
Bentonville.
been there. I went to Bentonville, Arkansas for a wedding a few years ago. No, it wasn't funny. It was lame.
It was terrible.
Did they register at Macy's or Walmart? Where's Nordstrom's headquartered?
Oh, Frogger.
Frogger.
California.
Incorrect.
Shoot.
You
Seattle.
got the coast right. Seattle's correct. Nice pull.
Good
Nice.
guess.
Check it out.
Where's
Jenny.
Saks Fifth Avenue headquartered?
Saks
Where's
Fifth
what?
Ave- Frogger.
Frogger.
If it's not New York, I'm going to punch somebody in the face.
It is New York.
Okay.
Where is Lowe's headquartered?
Lowe's.
You got me.
Yeah.
All right. Mooresville, North Carolina.
All right, we got time for maybe 2 more, Tony?
All right. Where's Amazon headquartered?
Amazon online.
They are also Seattle, Washington.
Okay.
All right. How about Petco?
Jeez.
Petco. Frogger, Alaska.
Well, you guys are great. Is there a Petco stadium somewhere? I'm
I was
asking.
going to say, is it
Oh.
California?
Petco Park? Yes, California.
Okay.
They're located in San Diego.
Wow. Jen, you killed it today. Good job.
Hey, lots of good guesses.
And Sarah, even though she's on the 10-second delay, did pretty well today as well. Big T, we got to wrap it up, but thanks for swinging by. We'd also like to thank our guests, Chad Powell and Martha Spansel-Pellico, directors of your local public charter school, SCVi. City Librarian for the City of Santa Clarita, Gino Robertson. Producer Sarah, Engineer Andrew. Thanks for nothing. Engineer Jen, and thank you for listening. Remember, friends, life is hard, but we're all here to help each other along. Be well and do good, and join us again next week and every Friday, 8 to 10 a.m. I am Matt Watson, and this is SCVi and iLead Schools' Eye on the Valley on your hometown station, KHTS.